Hi, my name is Luke. I am a university undergraduate at National University of Singapore, currently doing arts and social sciences in geography.
Hi, I'm Sri, and I am a reader, healer, and I also do counseling.
Hi, I'm Samuel. I currently freelancing at the moment, as well as trying to get my business started up.
Hi, I'm Melissa, and I'm an IT professional.
To me, consent is like there's a whole range of how would I say, human personality types and how we react to things and all that. So like, imagine things like a bell curve, just like grades or anything else. Like you have people at all the way at the end where everything is fine, all the way at the other side where you can't even touch them. So like where do most people lie? Probably somewhere in the middle of the bell curve. So like what is consent for the average person? I think that it's a matter of it's both a combination of verbal consent as well as body language consent, because some people might not be congruent with both. So if both are a clear yes and both are a clear no, those signals are very clear. So you can still, at your own consequence, you can push the envelope, but the thing is that there may be legal consequences, there may be personal and relationship consequences for that.
And adding on to like that point on like what is consent, I definitely agree that there's like different ways of giving consent through body language, through communication, be it verbal or by text. But the thing is, consent is never it's never permanent. Like it can be reversible. Like if you give consent for one thing and then you decide in midway, I'm not comfortable with this, you are free to not like retract it. You're free to retract consent. It's also very specific in how it is. Like you can consent to one, act during sex, but if you say, want to take it on to another act, you still need consent for that. And consent is in that way is such a mutual process. Like there's ideas that there would be an instigator, like may I have consent, and then a receiver, yes I will have, yes I give consent to this. But it's always like, I feel it's a mutually agreed process between two, even more people, with regards to sex and with regards to anything.
I would say that is body language, and also like so because I'm married, my husband will ask like, oh, do you want it tonight? So then I'll say yes, or I'm too tired, so I'm actually giving consent to yes or no.
Consent for me is just being able to emotionally understand yourself on your own comfort level, and also like being able to understand your partner's comfort level and where you draw the line between discussing stuff that you would want to push further, or you pause and like understand more what's going on their end, if in case there's like a misunderstanding stuff.
Like I said, consent can apply to anything that we agree to, in terms of a relationship, in terms of even just friends meeting up. Like say, if you want to eat someplace, like there's always the discussion, what do you want to eat, etc. You'll be like, I want to have Japanese food today, or I want to have, Western food today. And then other person would be like, I don't feel comfortable with having Western food because I may have allergies, etc. And then you understand, and then you move on to what about Japanese, and yes, and then they go, yes, which one? And then it always goes, and then you build on from there. Like just like how you're choosing a restaurant, it's just like asking someone, what to do with regards to sex. You can say, I want to do oral today, and like other people could, and then the person would be like, no thanks, I don't want that just yet. And with that, with regards to relationship, with regards to sex, with regards to anything, I feel consent can be given, consent can, also be breached, which can, create issues down the line, with regards to any relationship.
Okay, consent as a general word, there should be a separation between the business consent versus, let's say, the personal relationship consent, because these two are very different creatures. For example, there's one sales technique, it says ABC, always be closing. So the thing is that should you apply that to a personal relationship? I think in some cases that can work. In other cases, it can backfire because you're adding so much pressure on the person, whether romantically, whether sexually, whether even as a friend. Like you even ask your friend for a favor, you're going to be so pushy. ABC, always be closing. There are going to be effects on that For a business, for example, like you sign a contract, I deliver, you deliver, therefore like client, supplier, that kind of thing, that's perfectly fine. That's how the world runs. But the thing is that personal relationships the word is relationship. It has to be about emotions. It's not just a writing contract. It's not just I sign a document, I text you, I say that, we're going to have sex tonight, then after that you're going to revoke it, then therefore it's breaching the contract. No, it cannot be like that. Although, let's say like, it's kind of like up to the individual, but all I can say is that personal relationships are going to be much more volatile, much more fickle, much more, you need to be in the present as well as aware of the other person's emotions before you actually have any kind of mutual consent.
From his example, it's the same. So there's like a workplace consent and there's the relationship consent. But at least in the workplace, you kind of agreed to it with depending on the contract that you have or sign. But in relationship, it's like you need to scale which one you can adjust with your partner or not. Yeah. So it's the same actually within the families too. Like if you're talking to your parents or your siblings, that some portions are in, you need to go to a vacation together or not. It's a constant discussion on whether you would agree to their end or you can compromise at some point for maybe from them to you, whatever your topic is.
So I want to add to this because I see clients who are like 50 plus, and then because they are married, and then they felt that they are obliged to actually give sex to their partner, and in fact that is what their partner actually insisted on, because there was one woman who actually needs to, when the partner wants it, and then she will give sex, and then she will cover her top part of her body, and then just allow him to have access to the bottom part. And I told her, that's rape. That is really not like enjoying this at all. But she says, oh, but if I do not give this to my husband, I mean, like, he insisted that I have to pay him so that he can go outside and have some other women, you see. So that is ridiculous. So I actually, correct.
I mean, like if he wants to go outside, he go outside. But don't pay him, like.
I know, right?
It doesn't make sense
then
at
I
all.
said to her that, how about like, asking him to pay you and then you can give that to him then. So then after that she held my hands.
Both shouldn't happen. Both shouldn't happen.
She held my hands and she says, okay, wow, that's great. And then she cried. And then from that day onwards, she didn't give it to him. Yeah, because it suddenly just occurs to her that she doesn't need to do that. Yeah, so sometimes marriage at maybe different era, when I'm listening to you just now, so sometimes in the older era that they actually thought that, in marriage, they really need to give in to that.
Yeah, I mean, the most obvious case would definitely be, when someone is drunk, when someone is incapacitated. Like their ability to decipher like right from wrong, or even just basic things that they would do normally as compared to what they wouldn't do. And there's the reason why there's what is known as the age of consent, like in law. I'm not a law student, but so don't quote me, lawyers, anyone, please don't. But there's a definite age of consent, which I forgot if it's 18 or 16 in Singapore. But there's that age of consent. Anyone below that age is legally not allowed to give consent. And besides, if you do anything with someone under the age of consent, that's just wrong, full stop. So
I'd like to say in a marriage where the woman feels that they cannot say no because that they think that it is part of the marriage, yes. So that is where they can't give the consent. Yeah.
I would say for a workplace, say like a set of interns, and then suddenly maybe a few of them got got hired, and the others was like left as extension for an internship or something. The question would be from the guys that were left for the internship is that, why am I not capable to be hired as them? And then the others, the question on their end is that, do I argue with the boss, or like do I question the boss on his decision, or just leave it and maybe change on their own?
that is exactly the central idea, like how power, makes people unable to give, or rather, like power does not make people unable to give consent. You should be able to give consent no matter how much power you have in a relationship, but it's whether people breach that consent which determines, their power in relation to the other person. Like your case earlier, like saying you have power, like saying you have the power to, cut everything if you don't give me, or I have power to make you pay me. That is inherent power in that, breaches every consent. That is not consent at all. Like,
not all men are the same, just as not all women are the same. For example, some women are very prudish, some women are very promiscuous. It's the same as men. Like some of them are very, how would I say, disinterested. For example, some guys just want to sit down, play computer games, watch anime, that's it. Others are like completely full of pursuit. Because for various reasons, either it's because of their peer group, but I strongly believe that the reason is not really environmental. I think it's more biological.
I mean, for me, depending on the family for each, like either boy or a girl, depending on the family values that they were raised, I can meet people who are more vocalized on their consent, whether they are a girl or a boy. So like if they don't have like a solid family values, that's where the personality would shift. Like I met some guys that is very shy and that cannot really argue with anyone, and they would just be like pushed over by some people. And then for girls too, there are the stronger personalities, and then there are those who would just say yes on everything because I guess they were raised about just avoiding arguments or something like that.
I mean, with regards to if consent is different between men and women, I personally don't think so, because I think consent should be the same for everyone. If you say no, it's obviously not consent. If you don't say yes, it's still obviously not consent, despite what people construct to be. And I think gender, in terms of sexual violence, while it does play a very massive role in because there are gender norms that that men are constructed to have, and there's the idea of performativity where people's it's Judith Butler's idea of performativity where people act according to their gender because of different performances. Like if I'm a man, I'm constructed to go out and find a woman. That's a heteronormative male performance. While for women, it's the performance of I should cover up, I should be scared. That kind of performance in the public sphere, which is really damaging in terms of providing and giving consent, because it imbues power in any relationship. Like if say you are a man and don't perform like what a man does, like sometimes I paint my nails, sometimes I wear purple socks in public, it's the idea that that what is a man, what is and is a man constructed to actually go out and actually are they supposed to find women? Are they supposed to assert dominance by saying by being the one to instigate consent, by being the ones to approach people and the like? And while there may be biological aspects to it, this is how I see it, where where it is very constructed, and with regards to that, which is why I'm saying for both men and women, there should be no difference to consent. If you don't say yes, it is just not consent. And likewise, if you're drunk, incapacitated, not in any condition, or a child, or whatever, you don't have the right to even give consent, because you are in no, as you say, logical boundary to give it. At least that's how I see it. Yeah.
It's quite interesting because for guys and girls it may be a bit different, because for if a woman wants to approach a man sexually, I think most likely she will get the enthusiastic consent. So for men approaching women, that is quite tricky subject, because the thing is that there are times you get enthusiastic consent, very enthusiastic in fact. So I put it this way, it's kind of like an exponential curve, right? If she's really, really warm, then you're all the way here. Then the consent will be super enthusiastic, and all the times, right, the rest will be lukewarm. But the thing is that there are two opposing forces here. One of them is that you want to so-called open her up, and on the other side is that you got to be aware of where her boundaries are. So like you have to balance the two. And like I said, if you don't know how to manage fire, don't cook. You get yourself burned.
Yeah.
So one of my friends, he had this instance where friend's friend, right? So he brought back this girl from the club that they had sex and everything. So it's actually a foreign exchange student. So the morning after, she kind of regretted it, and then she complained to the police, and like he's undergoing investigation. So like, well, tough luck to him.
Yeah, because people aren't taught what enthusiastic consent really is. Like most of the time, like we're lucky having this panel discussion to actually talk about it. Like, like this is one of the few times I actually get to talk to consent with people. Like, because in schools we're not taught about what boundary setting is. Like we're not taught how to set boundaries, and we're not taught how to agree to consent within boundaries. And in school we're not taught about giving enthusiastic consent or understanding that consent, should be enthusiastic in most cases, where people actually say they want it, people actually say they, desire it, then, that's the idea of consent that should be given. Because otherwise, if, people are like, I'm not sure, then, it goes into a side of, it might be coercion in terms of power, like someone that is more power than you, like say boss over worker, that could be power. Say celebrity over fan, that could be power. And it might not be something that they want, but because of the power, they just agree because they're
just comply.
I think enthusiastic consent should very well be consent, and like as you said, it also should be within boundaries set, by those, by both who agree to consent.
I would say that it's just the simple act, whether when two people are kissing or in the act or something like that, and the other party didn't like put your hands off or not really enthusiastic in the kissing, you would know, right? So it's like so if they're not enthusiastic in like more deeper intimacy in it, so that is not really consent, right? So I mean that's just simple in terms of body language.
I think the one thing is very much, like survivors of sexual violence, especially internet-based sexual violence, they do not have, like some may not be even aware because it's posted online. Pictures of them are posted online for guys to look at and enjoy, from what I sadly know of the scene. But yeah, like they don't know that they're getting posted online, and thus they might not even have the agency to report because some of these groups may be closed. And okay, there's lots of things to go about it. Like there's the number of people who engage with it. Like the Nasi Lemak group, that one had 40,000 members. Like that is, like Singapore is a country of 4 to 5 million. That's like, I mean, it might only be 1% of the population, but it's still so significant. You cannot 40,000, the fact that 40,000 people are aware of it and are perfectly fine with it without reporting the group shows how widespread this problem really is. Like it's not just an isolated case of someone inventing new ways to okay, just coming out of my mouth makes, like I'm disgusted by it, like inventing new ways to take upskirt photos or the like. It's 40,000 people just going, this is okay. What kind of society have we built where it's inherently okay to be somewhat anonymous, especially online, anonymous in sharing these pics, anonymous in sending these pics, anonymous in confronting victims with these pics. And likewise, like with regards to reporting it, there could be very different ways as to how survivors deal with reporting it. Survivors may choose to brush it off. Survivors may want to report, or survivors may feel trauma and not feel ready to report it because they could feel, like family pressures, like, oh, why are you confronting this? Why are you texting this guy? And that will create, that is not a very good avenue of support. So like how survivors deal with it will be different, and we have to understand that each survivor will deal with it differently, and each survivor is going through a different thing. And the fact that this is so widespread, like it highlights what are we actually doing to stop it. Like, are we like raising punishments? Cannot be the case if, like, imagine 40,000 people like just going like to the police. That is not, like that is not sustainable. We have to like change this like somehow, like in society, such that consent, especially online, especially online,
I think
is
this
understood.
the legal aspect of these leaked pictures, like no one knows whether it's voluntary, no one knows whether it's leaked from someone's phone or whether someone's messages or whatever. So there's always a legal gray area. I think like the dangerous precedent is that once you open up the powers of prosecution to prosecute anything that is leaked, that opens up a huge can of worms. You could actually get victims out of nowhere. Because I think that I've not been part of the SG Nasi Lemak group. I heard some friends are. But from what I understand, right, a lot of these people are just simply forwarding what other people have forwarded them. Just like, you see the WhatsApp message, you forward it many times, right?
Oh God, it's a chain.
So like that's pretty much how they do it. Like basically someone sends to someone, then they upload on the porn site, then they download from the porn site, then they send to someone, ends up there. So it's not like they go hunt for all these pictures. It's just like, it happens.
Yeah, it's a question. It's not just a question of legality. It's a question of morality.
I'm dead serious about it. There's a lot of, how would I say, female celebrities, big and small, right? So their nudes get leaked online. Some of them are like, okay, there's two methods of dealing with it. There's the old-fashioned method, there's the new method. The old-fashioned method is simply like, oh, okay, my nudes get leaked, whatever. The new method is like, okay, the news get leaked, how about I just leak it myself and then get people to pay for it because people have already seen it, right? You can just Google search and you go find out. But then again, I think if I was the female in that situation, I would go with the old method. Yeah, whatever. I mean, that's just my take on it.
I mean, I don't know. Like, is it like a whatever situation with, how do you guys feel about it?
I wouldn't say a whatever situation, but it depends more on like what's your comfort level or how sensitive are you in reacting on those situations. So yes, the old type is that it's like I did send it anyway or I did post it anyway, but like it's only for one person. So if it's like 100 persons who's seeing it, I'm like, hey asshole, I only gave it to you. I mean, slowly platforms are getting more sensitive in those types of topics. Like they would organize profiles with extra sensitivity. Like they would ask several questions before it gets posted, or like automatic filters would be popped up if it's a sensitive matter or not. So I guess people sourcing would still be a good idea on how we can express more for those platforms, and then just reactively voicing it out and just telling them that, hey, maybe we can adjust on this area.
Yeah, I think that there's of course the technical aspects of whether you want to educate someone or what kind of platforms you want to use. But then I find that the root cause, if you want to pull out the problem by its roots, is actually not toxic masculinity. It's not the state of the society. I think it is the way we as individuals approach society, because ultimately our culture and every other culture, right, is built on two things: conformity and fear. So first thing of all, you have to build up yourself as an individual, and then you have to basically become an individual rather than say always being in a state of being pressured by everyone for everything. Then if you be pressured, then what separates you from human cattle? Like, you got to stop being human cattle. You got to start being a human being, right?
Yeah, I would say I agree with Sam. So that the people has to have their consciousness in working with that. Yeah.
The breaching of consent is basically due to power. With the lack of power that we have, we need, that survivors generally have, because, that's how people breach consent. They think, oh, the survivor doesn't have power to call me out. Here's the thing. We can organize together and gather power to call people out. That is advocacy. That is educating. That is like educating as a group. That is educating to, people, and like highlighting problems that are existent in our society, as in, through our through collective yet at the same time individual spirit.
Yeah.
I would say find your circle. like even if you have friends, if you don't talk to people who had the same experience, you might not be able to adjust well or discuss it to other people. So like find survivors of the same situation and then try to like group together and understand each other so that the pain would eventually just leave or like be forgettable.
I would say definitely healing, because I definitely believe in that. And of course, you have to have a good counselor or a healer that can help you to elevate all the traumas or even help you to clear that. Yeah.
Promote social awareness. I think, I mean, healing is good, therapy is good, being aware of yourself is good, but then, well, you got to find a way for the wolf to stop eating the sheep, right? Don't you think?
Yeah.
Of course, you can't preemptively kill the wolf, but the thing is that, well, if you can put a fence around the sheep.
I think one of the biggest things is, to survivors, it is most definitely not your fault. It is never your fault, because it is the other people who perpetrate that is, and I think most survivors have a difficulty getting past that
Yes.
first step
Yeah.
of internalized guilt. I don't know how it's built, but it's just built, for survivors to get. So we have to take that first step and realize that it's never your fault if, you ever get, sexually violated. And courses of action, like definitely therapy, definitely counseling, definitely like there are hotlines like those from Aware, there are Samaritans of Singapore. You just have the power to find support. You can find your friends, family, hotlines, whatever. Yeah, that is one of the best steps you can do.
But of course, the most important thing is you have to come out and want to be healed, right? Come out and find it.
Yeah, and I think like one last thing to say, if you don't feel like, you're ready to be like healed or ready to find therapy yet, it's perfectly okay,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
different people deal with it differently, and take time to find help when you need it.